Welcome to Barnstable Today. I'm Nick Cortez. The Planning Board on Monday night met for nearly 4 hours to consider a variety of special permits and regulatory agreements in various stages of completion. The board spent the bulk of the meeting, however, listening to a lengthy presentation on the Village at Barnstable, a large senior living community proposed to be built on over 25 acres of land owned by the Lyndon P. LaRusso Charitable Foundation and located off of Independence Drive. The foundation has applied for a special permit for the project. Here, attorney Ron Jansen kicks off the presentation with an overview of the three-phase project that's already 5 years in the making. He also goes into more detail about the proposed location of the facility.
The first phase will consist of 2 independent assisted living units of about 180 units total, together with the so-called Commons building. That's the building you'll hear about later on that provides all the amenities that the seniors like to have. The second phase will consist of 2 more buildings, which will be assisted living, again independent living, about 180 units there, actually 160 units there approximately. And the third phase would involve the skilled nursing facility. This is the map prepared by the GIS. And if you'll notice, there are 10 parcels of land involved here. And these 10 parcels are what aggregate to 25.85 acres of land. You'll note that to the north, this project is bounded by the Mid-Cape Highway. To the south, Independence Drive, and circumventing or surrounding, I should say bisecting the project, would be Communications Way. I thought I would probably try to better orient you. I don't know if you can make out just where everything is. You see the yellow arrow there saying basically this is where we're located. That's our site. You can see how close we are to Cape Cod Hospital and how close we are to the Mid-Cape Highway, how close we are to the community college and the mall, downtown Hyannis. We are in a very good location from the point of view of availing the seniors who will be residing in this project of local services.
Next, Attorney Jansen spent some time talking about the specific features of the Village at Barnstable, which would include up to 400 apartment units and a commons building with several amenities.
Well, a very integral part of a CCRC is going to be what they call a commons, or an amenities building. And this is what we have proposed in our plan on this project. You can make out the various uses that will be made in the commons area. We're going to have a reception in the concierge. We're going to have a library, greenhouse. This is all projected, of course, and when I say projected, it still is conceptual, subject to change. Cafe and computer lounge, game room, multi-purpose room, auditorium, chapel, wood shop, small convenience store, beauty salon, satellite banking, post office drop-off, public bathrooms, etc., etc., etc. Now, a very important aspect will be the health spa, which will in fact contain a pool area, a fitness center, a physical therapy room, and a wellness office, things that seniors like to have. In addition to what you see here, this is the first floor of what we're projecting to have. And by the way, this was all designed by the architectural team who's had significant experience of designing these types of communities. They're not here this evening, but in the event you wish them to be here at the next meeting, we're glad to have them here. This is the second floor. And again, you can see the various services that are being offered. Adjoining, the blue areas that you see adjoining the Commons building are basically apartment units. Because as you'll see with the 6 different buildings we're going to be having, they all need, as part of the concept, to be interconnected. And part of the reason behind it is to allow for the accessibility of services by the seniors. The skilled nursing facility. What we're proposing is to have a skilled nursing facility of up to 60 beds. Out of those beds, we're proposing that 40 will be definitely skilled nursing. The other 20 that we'd like to have would be dementia or Alzheimer's beds or Alzheimer's units. Let's talk about the project specifications overall. As you all know from the ad, we're talking about 340 units of independent living or assisted living. There's a multitude of services associated with these things. Visiting nurse is a good example. The wellness programs they have to have, including fitness, geriatric fitness, meals they'll have in a common dining facility. They'll even have meals brought to people's rooms. Each of these facilities will also have their own kitchen facilities. Social, recreational activities, security, as I say, around the clock, personal care assistance, building and ground maintenance, emergency assistance, housekeeping, on-site management, et cetera, et cetera. It just goes on and on and on. But it's those services that are customarily incidental to a population as they age.
Attorney Jansen went on to show the planning board several conceptual drawings as he explained the overall styling and size of the project.
Let's look at the project overall. This is what the project is going to look like from a site plan perspective when it's completed. You'll see here there are 6 buildings. I'm not having much luck with this pointer. Can you see the 6 buildings involved? There are 2 buildings oriented along Independence Drive, and they're all, as you can see, interconnected. There are 2 buildings that are behind the 2 buildings. Those first 4 buildings are all independent living, assisted living, and consists of the 304 units that we're looking for. The somewhat square building in the center, that would be the Commons building, and the building to the rear, thanks Ed, the building to the rear is the skilled nursing facility. Thank you. This is the architect's concept of what this is going to look like from the sky when it is built. And I might add that for the most part, as you'll hear later on, we comply with almost all of the zoning regulations for this project. We will need relief, as we'll discuss later on, but for the most part, we comply with all the setbacks. We comply with the massing, because in the Shroud, as you probably all know, it requires 5 acres. We have 25. And we'll be looking for relief from the height as well. Okay, here we are, 6 buildings. What are those 6 buildings? Well, here they are. All 6 of them laid out for you. Total of 743,390 square feet, 168 one-bedroom, 172 two-bedrooms, and the total building footprint's 175, almost 176,000 square feet. As you look at my chart, you'll see the overall height ranges from 35 feet all the way to 53 feet. It says 4 stories, but in essence, as Barnstable zoning ordinance defines a story, this would be considered a half story. So the actual height of these buildings are 4.5 stories from what I can gather, or at least as they proposed. In the underlying industrial district, the industrial zone, which is what you have to look for bulk regulations, the requirement is that the buildings cannot exceed 30 feet in height or 2-story, whichever is greater. Under the zoning ordinance, the Shroud zoning ordinance 240-29.9, you have the authority to waive these types of requirements. And we're asking for that waiver, I might add. This is what the project is going to look like. This is an artist rendering from Independence Drive. I personally like the design. I know it's all a matter of what you like, but I like it. It's sort of a traditional with a Victorian flair to it. This is the helicopter view of 2 of the buildings in the project. This would be looking to the west of the project, and what you see, the first building is the one closest to Independence Drive. This is looking from Independence Drive. You have the second building, and I believe the building to the right of that is, in fact, the Commons building. Is that correct, Ed? Yes.
The Planning Board continued the public hearing on the matter to its February 14th meeting, at which time the Board will hear more on the village at Barnstable, and will also hear details on Linden Court, a multifamily affordable housing complex proposed for land off of Route 28, which is an off-site component of the larger Village at Barnstable proposal. In other happenings from Monday night's meeting, the Planning Board recommended approval of 2 regulatory agreements. The first involves the redevelopment of the old Puritan Pontiac building into a boat storage facility, and the second, a regulatory agreement modification, would allow a culinary school to be located in the complex at 89 Lewis Bay Road, the site of the former Greenery building. Just one meeting left this week. Old Kings Highway meets this evening at 7 p.m. at the West Barnstable Community Building on Route 149. Well, that's all for now. I'm Nick Cortez, and we'll see you next time on Barnstable Today.